After studying this module, you shall be able to learn about the concept of industrial relation, identify features and objectives of industrial relation, identify various causes of industrial relations, understand suggestions to improve industrial relations, learn about employees' relations and different ways to put employees first, and appreciate the EFCS transformation and its results. We shall commence our discussion by studying about concept of industrial relations. Industrial relations reflect the relationships between employer and employees in the industrial organizations. Analyzing industrial relations in a broad sense may include not only employer-employee relationships, but every relationship existing between the unions of state and unions as well as between the government and the industry. In other words, relations of all those associated in the industry is called industrial relations. Studying relationships in any field means studying the behavior of people at work, their interpersonal relationships, and the rules used to regulate their behavior, and also the measures taken by the organization to protect their interests. Let us move on and discuss the definition of industrial relation. According to ILO, industrial relation comprises of relationship between the state on one hand and employers and employee organizations on the other hand, and the relationships among the occupational organizations themselves. The ILO uses the term to denote matters relating to freedom of association and the protection of right to organize, the right to collective bargaining, collective agreements, conciliations and arbitration, and the machinery for cooperation between authorities and the occupational organizations at various levels of economy. We shall now focus on the various features of industrial relations. The basic features of industrial relations are: 1. Industrial relations are employment relations. 2. Industrial relations represent individual and collective relations. 3. Industrial relations are a broad concept, complex and multidimensional because many relationships are involved here. 3. Industrial relations are flexible, that many undergo a change with the changing structure and environment of the industry. 5. Industrial relations reflect social relations also resulting from attitudes and the approaches of employers, employee towards each other. 6. There are many parties involved in the industrial relations, but the main parties are employers, employee and the government. To build harmonious relationships between the management and the labor is the main purpose of industrial relations. Industrial relations are regulated by laws enacted by central and the state government. Since it is management and the union which is highlighted the most in industrial relations, the main issues related to industrial relations include employee grievances and its redressal, code and discipline, management and union relations, workers' participation in management, industrial disputes, mechanism to resolve industrial disputes, and lastly, laws and regulations to redress and resolve grievances and industrial disputes. We shall now study the various objectives of industrial relations. The different objectives of industrial relations include: number 1, creating harmonious relations between management and labor; 2, protecting the interest of management and trade unions; 3, to establish and maintain industrial democracy based on participation of labor in the management and gains of industry; 4, to minimize all industrial conflicts; 5, in maintaining industrial peace; 6, in minimizing labor turnover and absenteeism; and lastly, to bring healthy and balanced social order through recognition of human rights in the industry. Let us now throw some light on the causes of poor industrial relations in India. There are various causes for having poor industrial relations, some of which are economic causes, which include: 1, inefficient wage and salary to workers; 2, unhealthy working conditions; and 3, inequitable distribution of salaries. Now we will discuss the organizational causes. Some of the organizational causes are: number 1, default communication systems, climate and structure; 2, unfair practices adopted by employer; 3, rules and regulations of the industry which may not be in the favor of employees. Let us now understand the social causes. Social causes include tensions and conflicts in society, growing intolerance level amongst people, etc. Let us now know the psychological causes. The psychological causes include lack of job security, poor organizational culture, non-recognition of merit and performance, authoritative administration, and poor interpersonal relations. We will now understand trade unions and their political impacts. Multiple unions and their interrelations, collective bargaining system, political parties are involved in organizations. Let us discuss the various suggestions to improve industrial relations. The various ways to improve industrial relations are: number 1, personnel policies are related to compensation, transfer, promotion, etc. of employees and must be fair and transparent. Clear communication of all the policies to employees is a must. 2, management and labor both should try to maintain a cordial relation and attitudes to each other. 3, employers' organization and trade unions should be able to deal with industrial relations problems mutually freely. 4, collective bargaining should be accepted as a method of solving and resolving problems and maintaining cordial relations at workplace. 5, an attitude of participative management to be a part of industrial relation must be encouraged. 6. Unions should adopt a responsible rather than a political approach to industrial relations. 7. Welfare of employees must be recognized and understood by ensuring minimum and reasonable wages, satisfactory working conditions, congenial environment, training and development opportunities, and other necessary benefits or facilities for labor. Lastly, 8th point, a grievance procedure to redress employees' problems must be established so that it satisfies the employees and is helpful in improving industrial relations. We will now study the concept of employee relations. According to Blyton and Turnbull, industrial relations became inevitable associated with trade unions, collective bargaining, and industrial action. Had too strong a tendency to view the world of work as synonymous with the heavy extractive and manufacturing sectors of employment, sectors that were dominated by male manual workers working full-time and that are now in decline in nearly all developed economies. Using the term employee relations, they say it enables them to adopt a broader canvas and to encompass the now dominant service sector, which in many developed countries now employs more than 70% of the workforce, and the changes in the composition of labor force, such as more women have joined working and more part-time, temporary and fixed-term contracts. They include non-union as well as union scenarios and relationships. Employee relations is a study of the rules, regulations and agreements by which employees are managed both as individuals and as collective group, the priority given to the individual as opposed to the collective relationship varying from company to company depending upon the values of the top level management. As such, it is concerned with how to gain people's commitment to the achievement of an organization's business goals and objectives in a number of different situations. The book In Employees First, Customers Second, HCLT CEO Vineet Nayyar describes how he helped his company to grow from a middle player to a leader in its field by changing the rules of the game and implementing a short list of highly unconventional management ideas. His efforts and those of his employees were able to transform the company into a powerful competitor with 55,000 employees and $2.5 billion in yearly revenue. Throughout his book, Nayyar describes how he flipped the company's management structure upside down and redefined how the company does its business. According to him, any company that says customer first does not know how to deliver that promise. All that is required is that employees first can actually deliver company's promise of customer first. If employee is not first, then there is no way to get the customer first. An employees first structure is one in which management is accountable to employees as well as the other way round. We shall now analyze the different ways to put employees first. The various ways that have been adopted or recognized in order to put employees first at workplace are stated as: number 1, the trust between management and the employees are amongst the lowest today in the world. The first thing is to create an environment of mutual trust where the employees believe what you are saying and are willing to follow you wherever you are going. Therefore, by pushing the envelope of trust, you can create an environment of trust. So, this is the first thing that you need to do. 2. The second is that you need to do is to make all the enabling functions, that are human resource function, the finance function, and all other functions, the office of CEO, which all have enormous power with them, accountable to the employees as much as the employees are accountable to them. So we create an electronic trouble ticketing system where an employee can open a trouble ticket on any of these functions, and they have to resolve these issues within a certain period of time, and the ticket is only closed by the employees. 3. The third method is to make the management and the managers as equally accountable to the employees as the employees are, and one of the initiatives we took was my 360 degree is done by 80,000 employees across the world, and the results are published on the web. That is true of 5,000 others of my colleagues, and this is purely in development. This 360 degree which we use for development purpose, but the very fact that you as an employee can rate a CEO and the results are published on the web for all to see creates the accountability for the managers and management, and creates a culture which unlocks a huge amount of energy in cooperation. Let us now discuss the concept of employees first, customers second transformation, that is EFCS concept. HCL implemented a 4-phase transformation for its employees first journey. These are elaborated as: 1. Mirror, mirror, confronting the truth. The first phase of transformation. Mirror, mirror. Because this is the time when a company looks at itself closely to determine where it needs to change. This is also when it decides what it wants to look like in the future. 2. Using transparency to build trust. This phase involves creating a culture that embraces the changes needed to transform the company into something much better. In order to build the trust required or needed to enact change, HCLT threw open the windows of transparency and shared the company's financial information, believe it, the good as well as the bad, with the employees across groups. By pushing the envelope of transparency, HCLT built trust between management and employees. That trust led to employee-initiated action. In order to build the trust needed to enact change, HCLT threw open the windows of transparency and shared the company's financial information again, the good as well as the bad, with the employees across the groups. By pushing the envelope of transparency, HCLT built trust between management and employees. That trust led to employee initiated action. 3. Inverting the management pyramid. HCLT turned traditional organizational structure upside down and made managers, those in enabling functions such as the human resource and finance function, accountable to frontline employees who work in the value zone, just as those employees were accountable to their managers. These structural changes made long-term sustainable change possible. Open 360-degree review. To help invert the organizational pyramid, HCLT opened the 360-degree performance review process to all employees who a manager might influence and allowed anyone who had given a manager feedback access to the results of that 360-degree. This practice increased participation, empowered employees, and made the 360-degree review a development tool, not an evaluative one. 4. Recasting the office of CEO. HCLT transferred the responsibility for change from office of the CEO to the employees, creating a company that was in many years self-run and self-growing. Employees now ask and answer as many questions as the CEO, increasing the speed and quality of innovation and decision making in the value zone. We shall now discuss the results of EFCS. The results of implementing Employee First, Customer Second are: HCLT grew at a CAGR of 24% and increased its market capitalization by 186% in the last 3 years. It doubled the number of 10 million US dollars, 20 million and 50 million customers, and tripled the number of 100 million customers. HCLT's revenue per employee is amongst the highest in the Indian IT industry today, and HCLT was also featured as one of the most innovative and disruptive companies globally. Summarize. We shall now recapitulate what we have learned so far in this module. Industrial relations reflect the relationships between employer and the employee in industrial organizations. Industrial relation comprises of relationships between the state on one hand and employers and employee organizations on the other hand, and the relationships amongst occupational organizations themselves. The objectives of industrial relations include creating harmonious relations between management and labor, protecting the interest of management and trade unions, to establish and maintain industrial democracy based on participation of labor in the management process and gains of industry, minimize all industrial conflicts, maintain industrial peace, minimize labor turnover and absenteeism, to bring healthy and balanced social order through recognition of human rights in the industry. The causes of poor industrial relations are inefficient wage and salary to workers, unhealthy working conditions, inequitable distribution of salaries, default communication systems, climate, structure, lack of job security, trade unions, and their political impacts, multiple unions and their intolerance. The main issues related to industrial relations include employee grievances and its redressal system, code of conduct and discipline, management and trade union relations, workers' participation in management process, industrial disputes, mechanism to resolve and solve industrial disputes, laws and regulations to redress and resolve grievances and industrial disputes. The various suggestions to improve industrial relations are improvement of personnel policies, management and labor relations to be made more congenial, employers' organization and trade unions to be made effective, collective bargaining to be encouraged, an attitude of participative management. Unions should adopt a responsible attitude. Welfare of the employees should be kept first and foremost by the employer, and there should be a proper grievance procedure set up by the management. The book, In Employees First, Customers Second, describe the growth of company from a middle pair to a leader in its field by changing the rules of the game and implementing a short list of highly unconventional management ideas. The different ways to put employees first include the trust between the management and employees, the office of CEO, which all have enormous power with them, accountable to the employees as much as the employees are accountable to them. Management and managers as equally accountable to the employees as employees are accountable to them are some of the initiatives. The EFCS transformation includes mirror, mirror, confronting the truth, using transparency to build trust, investing the management pyramid, and recasting the office of CEO.